I guess I'll start with a new experience I haven't had for quite some time is I felt nervousness come through me this morning and didn't have thoughts that was creating it. It was just started happening. And instead of like going, oh no, I'm nervous and started worrying about it, I started to just sit with it. And I could feel all the things that nervousness happen, these little pangs where you can feel little muscles start to twitch around your body. And then I sat with it so deeply that I sat and I could feel my fingers, the heat from my fingers coming out and going back up my arm. And I just thought, oh, that's cool. So that's a sensation I haven't felt for some time. But instead of being in resistance with it, I went with flow with it. So, well, welcome. This is our chat on Lensafarianism, and we hope you take this very, very seriously. This is a very serious topic we're about to approach. I'm going to start this. This is all the collaboration that we're doing in this event, and I'm sure that a lot of people have so many little pieces that they're picking up, and they're, as we would say in Lensafarianism, re-lensifying your experience as a human being. And so somebody had brought up, and I think it was one of Medicine Bear's talks, the idea that can God create a rock that it cannot move? He cannot move, she cannot move, however you want to say that. And I just thought that was a great question. I think that hit a lot of other people because it's actually been brought up in other discussions. But I posted on Facebook, and this is the response that I like the best so far. Since the only thing God has to make stuff from is God, then of course God can create a big rock. But since the rock is made from itself, moving it requires agreement. We'll see what happens when the rock decides. That just said a lot to me, especially when we start talking about these kind of what are becoming less abstract concepts, that we create our reality. And the thing is that we can go into our individual self and believe that, oh, I'm just going to go out and create my own reality. But the fact is that we're collaborating and we're putting this reality together. And so it's like, okay, now we've got people together, and it's can we make new agreements? Can we collectively perhaps let go of some old stuff and start bringing in and shining some new stuff in? All right. Lensafarianism. So we're discovering this idea of coming from a place other than lack. But we have all these agreements that we've said, that we've chosen, in these ways that we have communicated with one another on like moving forward in time, in chronological time. How do we do this? How do we come from lack? Because I'll give you an example. It'd be like, how do we know if we're looking for connection from our own loneliness? And my coaching for myself was neediness, like this neediness that I have inside. And then that just filters out into so much of our perspective. And it's like, so once you start to really understand creating your reality, you start to look to how to lens, how to change your perspective in order to change the ride that you're having. Because we're all having, and I think with this crowd, you understand that everybody's having a different individual experience. And that's our own unique perception. But then when we get outside, we move one step outside of the mind that thinks that it has all the right ideas and everything, we start to look and we start to find out that people have different experiences, um, what we realize is that the thing that we can change with free will is our perspective. So we can re-lensify and change our perspective, and then we just keep changing that perspective. And the whole idea is to just keep changing the perspective until we enjoy the perception. And to me, as far as I can tell, that the greatest love that we can find through changing our perspective is the love of life itself. And if you want to call that God or source or universe or whatever else, it's that. And so the idea came of looking at the beginning of the universe from a different point of view. That we talk about the Big Bang and we talk about all of these different things. But the creation, if we look at the creation of the universe from the point of view of the original thought that came in, there had to be a sensation that pushed that thought into existence. And it seems real that that first thought would have been a good sensation. I want to exist, because it pushed the idea that I want to exist. And then as we've been researching life together, we've realized that the thing that we're trying to move towards, but gets bent by what we can call the ego, lower self, all these other ideas, are good sensations. And so how do we, so we're all kind of, sometimes you're battling an ego, like if that's the terminology you're using, you're like trying to figure out what's ego, what's not ego, or however you put it together, what to believe in, these kind of things. The idea of Lensafarianism came that let's study the original thought. Let's study the good sensations, the sensations that we want. And so what we're putting in our lenses is focusing our attention on these good sensations. And so in Lensafarianism, we've started to separate these good sensations, and start looking at them. And it's like we can start asking people, people can say, do you understand? Do you have a relationship with kindness when you feel it? So I used to make a distinction between, am I being nice or am I being kind? And there's a different aspect to it, because in paradigm A, that's the give and take paradigm. You're playing give and take, and it's all about measurement. And in paradigm B, we're activators and receivers. And so we're always in flow. So the idea is to, as we study these and we start to make have a relationship with these good feelings, and there's fun ones like glee. And here's one that challenges people, is mischievousness. And I wish Tina was here. She had a great story about how they showed up to a family event that was like a big surprise. They dressed up in these big giant costumes so the family wouldn't know it was them. They interacted with them for hours, hugging and playing and everything else, until they unmasked themselves. And and the grandkids and everybody's just like, what? The whole time, this is crazy. But there's a mischievous part of us that likes to do that. And my mentor gave me good languaging with that and calls that love mischief. And so we look at it from the original thought, and then it's broken down into all these other good sensations. It's like, what do you want to wake up today and put your attention on? How about all these good thoughts? So on Lensafarianism, did we even check this morning? We usually check this every day, and we say, okay, these are the sensations.
We have a new sensation for every day, so we can hone in on that sensation.
And these are the ones that we have collected ourselves through our own experiences, and then interacting with other people. Lensafarianism is about expanding. It's a collaboration. It has nothing to do with the originators. It has to do with people that are on board. It's like, well, I think there's another sensation, and that should be looked at and explored. So every day, what are we doing? We're exploring all these different sensations. And for me, what this does is one of the abstract concepts that people push all the time and drove me nuts forever is compassion. I'm like, what the hell is compassion? You're saying keep having compassion, keep having compassion. And it's like, and then you can start saying, well, am I pitying somebody? Because pitying is, a lower sensation. And we don't know. It's like, oh, but you can hold compassion. And what it came to me was, these are the passions. The good sensations are the passions. And so compassion to me is complete passion. So if I'm sitting with somebody, I will hold. If somebody's going through grief, I know it's just a natural thing for me. I experience joy.
Okay. So moving towards good sensations. And I wanted to talk about stories because a lot of times it's the stories that we have going on in our head that interrupt our ability to be present. And when we were creating this concept of this tool on how to relens things, aside from the friction that we have with each other, because we have friction. We had an experience this week that I'll share towards the end of how we used this to actually work through that friction. But the story that we have inside our head, it keeps us kind of in this closed loop. And when we're not reaching out for outside perspective, then we can continue to grow the story into an epic novel. But it's not, how many of us have been stuck into some kind of a, downward energetic, oh, they don't like me, or oh, I'm not accepted over there, or oh, my mom doesn't, whatever it might be. And those stories kind of then interrupt our present moment. And when we can recognize that we're in a story, then that's part of a big part of the breaking things open, so that you're able to interrupt. Okay, I'm in a story. And then we go into asking for outside perspective, or at least acknowledging that we've attached to the story, and that attachment is holding us limited in this prison or this cage. And so in order to break out of that, we're gonna have to be vulnerable, and we're gonna have to reach out for a different perspective. We came up with the 3 Ds of defend, deflect, and deceive. And when we come across friction, whether this is with your partner or even something that you could be watching a program, these are things that tend to come up within us, and we feel maybe defensive, like over something that we have attached to our identity. So for me, I'll use an example that I really prided myself on being an amazing interior designer, or a mom. And then somebody might come at me and be like, you suck, and I'd be like, no, I don't, look at all my achievements. And so that's a classic attachment to identity. And I'm trying to defend then who I think I am in the world, rather than who I am in the world. And when we kind of hung on to the defend, deflect, deceive, it just was able to really break open how we deceive ourselves, how we use defense to hide from connection to others, and hide in our emotions, and then also deflect. I mean, it's just a constantly shielding or deflecting accountability. And I'll go into my accountability and give that example from this week. That was a really very good example. Should I do that now?
Sure.
Okay. So we had our relationships talk scheduled for this week. And the way that my brain works, you know, there's certain things that I know about myself. And whenever I would do a like a design presentation, and I've done so many of them that I know the ones that I didn't have any preparation, I still shined, but not like the ones that I put preparation into. I had kind of clarity with my thoughts and my, and you know, there was outline, or you know, so there's and then it's like I feel confident, I feel great, clear about what I'm presenting. And so these are little things how we know ourselves, right? Well, I have this unspoken expectation then that I didn't realize, because this is what happens when you're with close to a person, and sometimes you expect them to read your mind. And we do this not even thinking, but this is how we get into friction with each other. So then I come to him with wanting to do an outline for it, and James is so good on the fly and just improving, right? So, but I didn't have that. So then I had this little thing where I was like a little bit miffed because he didn't give the importance to something that I had going on in my mind. I didn't even really convey it. And so there's this friction that we can easily fall into just because of lack of communication. But there's also the practice of being accountable, holding on to what it is that I did. And this is where we tend to push off our emotions onto other people, or the responsibility. And it's not his responsibility to get what's in my head out of my mouth. That's my responsibility. And so it, but again, it was still a beautiful opportunity for me to use these tools that we've created, and was like, this is something that I needed for me. I don't need to push that off onto you, but I want you to understand that this is important for me. So I just need that elevation of this is what I need. So it's something that I was like, I'm so sorry that I pushed my needs onto an expectation onto him, because then he received some icky kind of negative energy from me because I was a little bit miffed because he didn't put me as, you know, I didn't see that. So that's how we easily get into friction with each other, and how easily then we can get out of friction with each other. And so I like using me as an example, because I'm very open with I'm a dysfunctional person. I want to love. I'm learning how to love more functionally, and I think that we're all in kind of that same boat. And I just love sharing all of my falling on the face flat on, you know, to just be like, we're together. We're not alone. We're not supposed to get it all perfect. And so there's my example of just this week using these tools in accountability, holding on to that friction, that frustration that I was feeling, that I'm not important, that I didn't have my words together, blah blah blah. Those are all things that I'm holding, so they're affecting my experience. And because my partner's with, in close proximity, then it was affecting his experience too. So this is how we are, again, accountable for our own creation and our own life force and energy that's going out. and affecting each other, and just taking into account that we are collaborating all the time, energetically, and but when we're pushing our expectations and things, that's how that push puts us the wrong way. And so it's a accept, hold, and account. It's the yes and. It's kind of bringing improv into so that's a side. This is the next portion of Lensafarianism, is the aha method. And I'm going to let James talk about that.
Come at it with a little different approach.
Oh, and just real quick, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's a free screen moment right there.
Because the other thing I wanted to add on there was seeing behavior without judgment. So I was able to then see my own behavior and work through that. When we see other people's behavior, there's always something that's wanting to be good, that wants to be birthed. And sometimes it's our skewed, warped lens, dysfunctional patterns that maybe don't deliver the best. But underneath it all, there's those feelings of good behind pretty much anything that we're all expressing. And
Nice. So this is new language for me. I used to be very linear. I could take you Alan Wattsy way through the cosmos. But here's just birth in front of you. I see angels as doulas, waiting to birth, waiting for a birth to happen. Because the idea is that an angel has, in any particular situation, an angel has vision that sits above the kerfluffle, that sits above the resistance. And so it's waiting for something more beautiful to be birthed. And so in this situation, basically what I was, the information I was given was, hey, I'd like to make an outline for our relationships. Okay, great. And then another time, then we get to an hour before, yeah, I'd like to make it. I'm like, okay, that sounds good. And then we had somebody come in and they were like, oh, you need to make that outline. And I said, well, I don't know how long this outline thing's gonna take. And then she starts to tell me minutes. We're not going to count how many minutes. Beforehand, I start to get the idea that this is a more important idea than she was impressing upon me. So this actually led to, like, right in the moment, we start having this resistance. And once we got done with the relationship thing and we went back into the unit, we're still in this resistance. So I'm practicing my recent Lensafarianism. I like to put these lenses on, and one of mine is to keep reaching for a deeper subtleness when I feel the resistance, because it's not real apparent to me anymore. It's like I have to kind of like really put my attention on it. And so that's what I'm doing. So as she's still, she doesn't have the words. And so she's kind of reaching out by picking, and she's picking at me, and she's picking at me, and she's picking at me. And I'm just sitting there going, okay. And as I'm continuing to go deeper, trying to stay, then something happens and the birth begins, and her words start to become articulated outside of her, and she's like starting to extrapolate this story that's been in her head, which she hasn't been sharing with me. She's been hoping I've been reading her mind the whole time, but I have not. And then it's like, oh, now I understand. Now I understand finally. So in Paradigm A, it's give take. and there's a measurement between those two functions. So in paradigm B, it's activator receiver. Something's trying to be birthed, and what's important isn't who was at blame. It was, did the idea birth itself? And it did. And then all of a sudden now she feels understood. We have the clarity that we were looking for the whole time. And so, yeah, to leave it there. So in Lensafarianism, one of the things that we run up against is how other people perceive the world. And so the whole idea of Eckhart Tolle is to be present and aware and be okay with what is. And I like the saying that feels good to me. I want to be in cahoots with what is. So how do we get into cahoots with what is? We have to be okay with allowing something to be in this world, even if we don't like it. And we're telling ourselves it's not good and whatever else. It's like, can I just accept it without having to make a value judgment on it? I may not choose that thing, but I need to hold it. And so this was a process when we were in some good resistance that popped through, was the aha process. And it was so amazing, and the synchronicities were crazy. I was later that day after I did it, I was cleaning our rig, and I don't care about vanity plates or anything else. And I was cleaning the rig, and all of a sudden I look and see that my license plate is AHA. And I'm like, oh boy, the universe is speaking to me. So the aha process is very simple. If you run into that resistance and somebody's trying to say something to you, is you accept that reality as it is to be true, and you hold it to be true. And this is the embodiment of, if you're feeling that resistance within you, is to trust that there's going to be a transformation. Like, to me, this morning for me, I processed with that nervous energy. I'm like, okay, you're here. This is not, I do not like, this sensation. I wouldn't say I don't like it. I'm coming to be like, I'm okay with it. And I sit with it. And then I see what speaks to me. And when you're relating, the aha process has the last part. It's like, once you can see through it, you've cleared the dissonance within you. You might realize, oh shit, there was some of my behavior I need to account for. And so that's when you can go and say, oh yeah, I can see my part in it. I wasn't able to see it before, and now I can account for my part in this. But then the process becomes so natural and consistent that the accounting part is just an organic function, and then you just live I
had so many blind spots that I could not see were right in front of me, that the aha process was really what helped me work through those blind spots. Because those blind spots would be just, I want to see it. Why can't I see the blind spot? And you're just like, I just need to. Why can't I get this? I want to see it. I want to get it. And then you do the aha. So it was the accepting something that I was refusing. And when we accept other people's reality as true, it's kind of the yes and in improv. It's amazing how it's quantum, because we're allowing the other person's reality to be shared. So we're now giving witness. We're allowing the other person's reality to be, well, I said that part, acknowledged witness. But then it's like holding on to it. There's some kind of an energetic exchange that goes on between you and them where it disarms them, because now you're holding what they've brought to you. And it's very quantum in that kind of a way, because it's something that we don't really do with each other very much. Usually we're trying to push our reality onto somebody else and tell them, no, this is the reality. And they're coming back to you going, well, that's not my reality. This is my reality. And so this is where we get into stalemate. So just holding that reality that's been given to you about whatever the situation is, and then you go through the accounting portion of it at the end, because there's things that as you're holding this reality that someone's given to you, that what James was talking about, holding it will create the path, the opening, that portal for anything that needs to be communicated from spirit. So maybe there was something that you didn't realize, and then just holding it will come out, and it will help you see. There's other times though that I've done my accounting, and that's your reality. I don't have any accounting that I can see at this moment. But then sometimes later I'll be like, oh, there's a little bit. I found it, So it's a beautiful process, because we're just all been so singularity in our paving the way forward, and we realize now that we are all connected, and doing this by accepting other people's reality, just like in improv, yes, and is just such a beautiful relating part of what we can do with each other.
Honesty. I figured out that honesty and integrity was one of my blind spots. From a very young age, I always had a connection to integrity and honesty. And I held on to that as part of my identity. And what I recognized after a long time, because it's like I thought integrity was a good quality, so I expected it out of everybody else. So if anything was bent, I was like, fuck that, I'm out of here. I'm not hanging around here. Like, I need to be with honesty. But what you start to recognize is these good sensations get twisted by the ego. And the thing is that with our subconscious stories that we have going on, we've bent reality. And so people can't see how to be straight. And we have to give space. And that's what I realized to myself is I have to give you guys more leniency on being honest. And, it's also about me being honest with myself. So that was a blind spot to me. But here's this was the real interesting thing where I dropped into. Chelsea was all about frequency and vibration. And I was like, that sounds good and it's neat, but I don't understand it. But a concept finally made me understand it. Cognitive dissonance. Has anybody ever heard of that? Does anybody want to share how they see cognitive dissonance?
Yesterday, there were two beautiful friends sitting at the fire, and one is on one very far end of the political divide, and the other is on the other end of the political divide. And I'm in the middle, and I just want to have this drumming meditation, which is what I called doesn't know that. And I feel like I have to stand in the middle and like rescue that. I try to tell the one person, and that didn't work. So and then I tried to tell them, well, can we not do this here because this, it's going to be the drowning stream that I put on work. And I got so frustrated that for some reason I felt like it was my job to like rescue what was eminently going to happen. And then I all of a sudden realized I couldn't, and it wasn't my responsibility. So I just left the. So it was like I was feeling the cognitive dissonance between these two very strongly, based on my lens of knowing this person has been a bulldog for 3 years, and like I held that expectation of that person because it's all I've ever seen. So
You got perfect. And
Mhm.
Amy just gave the what I call the philosopher's perspective. You take the most egregious perspectives, but boy, do we in our world understand it so much. You understand echo chambers and confirmation bias, and people have like these stringent beliefs. And so if you're on these far ends of the political spectrum, you are like, la, la, la. I don't care what this person says, they're wrong. I don't care what they're literally setting up cognitive dissonance to not be able to hear each other. So, but it comes down to just the situation we had the other day where there was a truth that wanted to be revealed. And it took us looking at it from a different perspective. So it is that point where people can't see a reality uh, outside of the stories that they're telling themselves in their head. They literally do not. They cannot get it. It doesn't exist in there. I have a family member that Chelsea's watched me back into a corner as far as I can back them into a corner, and they literally will just stop. They freeze because their mind can't accept any other reality. But if you look at the term, it's called cognitive dissonance. What is dissonance? It is out of harmony. It is a frequency, it's a vibration. And so the thing that we're wanting to be in is resonance. And so when we have these resistances, these situations where in resistances, if we want angel vision to see through it, it's like what do we need to do? We can try to fight with words and with logic and reason and facts and try to beat through it. Or we can look for the resonance. We can look for the frequency. And that's the idea of Lensafarianism, is to look for resonant sensations and look through that lens to try to find the truth that wants to be revealed. Because I don't know about you guys, but I got tired, absolutely tired of circular conversations. Because there was this part of me is like, I'm gonna get the perfect words together that will get this person to realize what it was. I even had a very loving family member say that I was a malevolent being because I was challenging their perspective. And I was like, and that also tells you they do not believe I'm a malevolent being. But the story that they're telling in their head is, if you go against the story I'm telling in my head, evil is what did that. So you can see the mirror of how we create evil from inside of us, and it gets created outside of us.
The attachment to that story and anything challenging it is like a cannon being aimed at what you're trying to protect. But
so as we practice, Chelsea and I practice these good sensations. We resonate with those good sensations, and that seems to be able to break us through those blind spots that we have within ourselves and in this realization. And there's nothing more beautiful than to be able to laugh with somebody over the shadow that they've discovered. It's like, okay, like, who's been humiliated to their core? Yeah. Humiliation is, well, some people, you still got some humiliation to go. You got some humiliation. But it is that, and it's being okay with that. Tink?
I've recently discovered that because there's a lot of that roadblock when it gets programming that people can't see through. And I started looking at like how I was coming across, and it was weird when I realized like I don't know anything. I've been told absolutely everything. So for me to have an absolute in it, and it's me having conversations with people that I don't agree with or resonate with, be able to ask them, how did you come up with this? Where, and have them show me their, and just take in that because I don't know. And everything I know, I've been told. And even, we out here as nomads look at, that if it don't have two purposes, we don't use it. So a cup is a bowl and it's a vase and it's all these things. But when I left my goddamn house, I had cups and bowls and vases and so it's really neat to be able to look at something and just not it just even to just it is kind of just coming down in resonance with someone else and just taking in their information without having it be so disharmony to my energy, because I had a belief. And I was like, well, do I know anything? I can resonate with it, but I don't. Then it's me having that conversation and that dis-ease and that laughter a whole lot easier, like for me.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I have that a lot with the farm.
Right. Very good.
Yeah.
And it also gives us relief that we can change our perspective and change the way that we see things. And so basically, I used to want, when I was posting on Facebook and social media, I wanted to have the perfect perspective. And I was like, this is going to last forever, and I got to have all the words in the right order and everything else. And that's changed completely. Now, I trust what feels good. If it feels good, you bet. And you'll see me like my own stuff because I like it. Because I'm resonating with it and I'm feeling good with it. But I like that, Tink, where you're talking about that, because that is a big part. And boy, I'm feeling that person inside of myself that used to want to get everything perfect. And so when somebody came in with a belief, well, I thought I had all the right beliefs. And when they came in, I'm like, I'm going to get the right words all together so I can correct their belief and make it my belief. What was that show where Mythbusters? The guy had a saying. Does anybody remember what his saying is? I take your reality and I make it my. I take your reality, I make it my. No, I can't remember. Anyway, he had a. Yeah, something like that. And I just love the play of that, is like, because that's what we're really trying to do, is say, no, your reality is incorrect. I've got the right reality. And so that's what Lensafarianism also does give too, is like, everybody wants to know what you believe. And that's what I love about Lensafarianism, because it's a religion, it's a philosophy, it's a psychology. And so it's all the things. Whenever I go up to somebody, if they want to know what I believe, I'm a Lensafarian, and you know what? I'm not attached to that either, because I can become an unlensafarian in a second if it doesn't serve me.
It's whatever the best perspective is. So it's not holding on to what is that, dogma, or like rigid rules, or what am I trying to find?
Belief system, like that you like a belief system that you put faith in the belief system and then try to plow through reality,
the system itself,
and knock off the people that don't believe the thing that you believe, and then you bring it back together. I'm speaking for how our lives would go. Yeah, go.
I'd like to add something.
Yeah, please.
such a blessing to find that I was wrong
Mm-hmm.
and to accept this new and just be open-minded about it, right? Not have a dog in the fight.
So yeah, and so that the languaging that's coming from me is the angels have gotten a hold of you finally, and they're saying we were going to give you angel vision so that when you're in a certain circumstance, you'll be able to see something bigger than you're going to become something bigger than you were before the conversation.
I
But that
think
kind of expands your consciousness quick, doesn't it?
Yeah, but at the same time, I want to talk about facts.
Right.
I feel this way because of this. So tell me why
Because
you
of
feel your way. And I was part of that. I was part of that argument that we were talking about earlier. You know, I was half of that political argument. So I wanted to say, this is what I think, and this is the facts. So tell me your facts.
Yeah.
But
So
are they
because-
facts?
Pardon me?
But are they facts? And I'm not even going either side. We are only told things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
We do
Right.
not know anything absolute. And I tell you, working on movie sets and doing, I work behind the scenes on news scripts, they are given scripts. They aren't even, it's just, so we really have to look at our facts and really dive in and do our own research outside of what we're given. Because we
It's
don't-
how we
that-
understand
and I-
facts.
and
We
so
think
I'm
a
not
fact is
questioning
truth.
Your, you know, how your feelings on it at all.
Yeah, no,
So I'm just to think about how when I see, it's weird. You see things on the, you know, when I'm looking at over the shoulder cuts and I see TV different. And once I could always saw it, but I didn't see it. I didn't, and then I was on a movie set, and all of a sudden it was like, we are so programmed. We were programmed to give you certain cereals. We were programmed to give you certain cups. We were programmed, and we are telling, and we're feeding this to you. And so the facts are so. I believe that I should not have a hard mattress because in the movie she said it's bad for your fourth and fifth vertebrae. I did not know that they didn't have to tell you the truth. But for years I would not buy a hard mattress because I heard it. And why would they lie to me? Because I just so
Right.
No, that and
So
that
part of what helps us with our belief system softening is getting confrontable. And James and I would have this practice of, are you confrontable? I'm confrontable. You know, let's get confrontable. And it's a great way to softening the rigidity that we might have in our belief systems. I mean, we're here, so we believe we are have a right to be here. You know, so there is belief in how we put this reality together. So if we can kind of soften the rigidity of belief, right?
yes, that's the. I need to. I well, TJ covered it. I need to talk to you about something. You ever had that from a partner, and you're just like
We
that?
need to talk.
There's a perfect place to start looking for resistance. You're just like, and it's like, hang on a second, give me a second to become comfortable with being confrontable.
Mhm.
Go ahead. You have a what?
Mhm.
Okay.
This beautiful song. I've heard the song, I know the song, but I don't know the guitar. You know, and I see the chords on the paper, and depending on what fret it is or whatever, the way I'm playing it may not sound like the song. And so I'm having this dissonance with this guitar because it's like it doesn't sound like it's supposed to. I hear the way it's supposed to sound. And I realize maybe I'm on the wrong fret. I don't know the board. So I'm finding my way to make this beautiful song, and that's that alignment you're talking about. And also once I figure that out, I can play the song however I want to play it, as long as it sounds.
In resonance.
Is that softening part, playing it from someone else knowing I'm wrong.
Oh boy, do I relate to that.
It's like you strum that guitar and you're looking for a C, but you don't know know music theory. I don't know any of that. I'm
It sounds
just
like
feeling
a
my way through it, and it's because of the vibration. So it's
capo.
Yeah, she needs
Sounds
a
like you need a capo.
She needs a capo.
Yeah.
And I have the same struggle with learning the guitar. So, but that's one thing I'm proud I know.
But thank you for bringing that up, Tina, because we are all instruments and we're learning how to play and tune ourselves differently and better, and so that we can be the beautiful music that we all are and play music with each other.
If you want to hear dissonance, just go to my karaoke.
Yeah.
So the Lensafarian website's at paradigmb.org. And then you can go to the Lensafarian thing, and we have a new sensation every day that'll pop up. And then we just start that day to start looking at it and start thinking about times in our lives where we felt free, we felt brave, we felt bold, we felt kindness. Because that's one of the really kind of cool things that I didn't know. Before, it seemed like I had to go out to the world to find these sensations. So I had to go find joy. I had to find an experience that would bring me joy. And what I've learned from practicing these sensations is that we have an involuntary and voluntary system with good sensations. So I can stay, and that's what I believe contentment is. Contentment's a scary thing. People think of it as boredom.
Being content.
So to me, what contentment is potential energy. It's actually a combination. It's having registered within you all the good sensations. And when we understand that, and perhaps that's why we go out as young people to find all of these good sensations, we learn about those good sensations. The idea is that eventually we harness those as potential energy. Meaning that, like I was thinking the other day, that I don't like go around and skip everywhere that I go and whatever else. But the minute that somebody, if I go into a store and says, "How you doing?" I say, "I'm wonderful." Well, wonderful's coming right through me. Like joy's coming through me and excitement's coming through me. So it's like their contentment to me is a place of, man, anything's possible right now. And sometimes I'll even find myself like, I'll just be sitting and I'll just go, I'm not enjoying my now, or not to where I'm at. And it's like, well, what do I want to experience? Oh, kindness, sincerity. And I can just I can just tell myself sincerity, and I feel it in my chest. And it's like I have this ability to enjoy all of these different sensations, yet I don't have to go out in the world and try to find all the experiences that make me believe that I need to have these experiences.
We get
Exactly.
oh,
Well, it was something you said about emotions and feelings are different. And the way I interpreted that, see how this goes, was that emotion comes up from like out of the unconscious, and if you sit with it and allow yourself to experience it, then it turns into a feeling that then you have access to on a conscious level. Is that kind of what
That's
you're telling me?
perfect. So that's what I was really diving into this sensation thing. That's what all these people are doing when they're saying high vibration, and is the fact that we just organized our culture for this, for our minds, and it's like busy, 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 busy. We're supposed to like analytically and logically put everything together, and it's like we have this whole other guidance system coming through us, which
Whole
is our
body.
sensations. But it's like I'm always looking for what's tangible. Like I want to know not just like airy fairy kind of stuff. I want to know tangibly, like, how do I get in contact with them? So I came up with that I separate emotions as unconscious and feelings as conscious. And so it's like, yeah, an emotion for me is resistance. And when that resistance comes up, it's not about our getting rid of the emotion. It's telling me, it's guiding me. It's saying, oh, you got to look at something right now. But it's not even you're looking at it. You're experiencing it. Okay, I get this nervousness this morning, and it's like, oh, here you are. You're telling me something. And it's like, okay, what am I going to do with you? And just sit with it. Yeah. And then eventually, that's the nice thing. And sometimes these emotions, um, oh gosh, that was my very first abstract concept. I was in a men's group and I just started alchemy in my spiritual journey. And my men's group kept telling me, I went to a center for spiritual living. And the men's group just kept saying, I was going through my divorce. And I'm just like, I am the end of a nerve at that time. And they kept, and I'm so funny the way that I work. I was using alcohol one night, a sleeping agent another night, weed another night, and an anti-anxiety drug the other night because I didn't want to get addicted to anything along the way. But one night I just told myself, okay, I like, because nighttime's the worst. You know, I'm struggling all day, and then nighttime is coming to the worst, and I start feeling this emotion coming up and this just anxiety. And my men's group kept telling me, you need to ask it what it wants. You need to sit with it. Well, from that mindset, I'm like, what the fuck are these guys telling me? so I laid down in bed and I'm like, okay, anger, okay, fear, okay, anxiety, what are you trying to say? And it was my first like weird, completely outside of my logical mind. I was laying there and I was like just sitting in the emotion. And all of a sudden I just got up with no thinking behind it. And I bent and I stood up, walked over around the bed, and I bent over and it washed out of me. And I went, I'm scared of being alone. Went from emotion to a feeling. So it was like I was I was revealing what was unconscious to me to what was conscious to me. Yeah, so that was a perfect example.
But just to follow up on that, isn't that like now I own it? Now I'm conscious. I can utilize that. It's not a stranger to me. It's accessible when I need it. I mean, all that stuff. So I see you're taking emotions out of this bucket and putting it over in this bucket. You know, and every time you do that, now you become more expansive in what you can offer yourself in the world.
Yeah, and what you realize is that it's like more. It once you go into this practice, you realize that when you become fascinated with making the unconscious conscious, it's like more reality comes in, and novelty is like it is ever present. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm experiencing all these new things all the time, and it just becomes a rhythm of your life.
Did you have a chance to go into the feeling of the day and how when we do this over and over, it finds new.
Oh
Okay,
yeah,
so
like so yeah,
when,
yeah, go ahead.
when we have
You're-
when we have these same feelings like kindness, joy, we have a whole big long list of them. At first I was like, these are great, but then you go through one cycle of them, and then they come back around. And then it created even more opportunity to find even more nuance and more ways that I could experience this sensation. And I was amazed then as we continue to go through each cycle, how much more and more. Because it's kind of like we have knowledge of these sensations. We have maybe a few of them that are go-tos that we're very comfortable. We have a good relationship with them. We can get into, this one, that one, the others. But when we really go into like curating, really knowing very deeply all the ways, it's like James was saying, it just opens up into so much more than what we've been paid attention to before. So it's like a deep well. We see happiness or joy or kindness as just the surface, but there's so much depth that can be experienced. And a lot of times we just haven't given our enough time to ourselves and bathing in that sensation to really feel it in different ways that we didn't even know.
So you guys heard of like the spiral of consciousness? We're actually spiraling in consciousness. So we will meet a piece of shadow work at one level of consciousness. We think we got the badger in the bag, and then we're just like, oh, I get it. And then we experience some more life, and then, oh my God, the badger gets out of the bag, and you're like, wait a minute, I thought I already dealt with that. So the thing with Lensafarianism that's so exciting is oftentimes when we're in spirituality, we're coming from a place of like we can get fixated on doing shadow work, and we're always waiting for another opportunity to heal. But what's on the other side of that? We're kind of looking at that. We've got all these parts that we need to heal. We got this unconscious, but really what we are moving towards are feelings, and those sensations are a resonance. And so the practice then in life is it's resonance practice. And so like Chelsea was just saying, it's like, yeah, every time it's like, oh, I already did bold. And it's like, yeah, but the next time that I did bold, I found something new. So I'm finding another resonancy pattern. So maybe we're getting rid of the unconscious, our shadow, but we're doing it in a playful and fun way. And it's just simply when everybody's saying, go to a high vibe. And it's like, maybe that's what that practice is instead of looking behind us on what we're dragging, we're looking forward at what we want to experience, more resonance with the universe and with each other. Yeah.
We are
Yeah.
at 1 hour, so we want to say thank you. If there's any
let's
questions,
see if anybody has anything they want to share. Yes.
I was sitting with a brother yesterday in Bar, and just from his Facebook, I know he's going through some suffering and some heartfelt things, and I just walked in and he was sitting there and he just looked so sad. And I've been kind of avoiding him because he's just so sad all the time, and that's not fun to be in. And I don't want to wallow in that when my joy feels better than his sadness, so I just go over there a lot. But I really did kind of see him alone and just feel like maybe he needed a little someone to smile, And so I did this time. I just walked over and sat with him. He's just had a bad breakup, and he's sad about that. And what helped me, and I just wanted to say it, not to change his reality or to negate what he was going through, or tell him that it's not wrong to feel any of that or any of that. Well, I wasn't doing that. I was just saying, well, here's what helped me. And what came out was maybe instead of just living, looping, oh my God, what I do wrong, how'd that happen, how did I lose her, blah, 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 and just letting that play for the next 3 months, maybe you can say a different whole story. Like you said, change your perception and everything changes it. Instead of saying that story this time, if you can, would it be helpful to say, wow, we had all this beautiful food, we traveled here, remember that time we both snorted when we left, and the sun came out, and that was fun, and I got laid for 6 weeks in a row for free, and now she's over here doing that, and now I get to go over here and play a whole new thing, and there's a white plate, and maybe if you latch on to that story instead of that story, maybe there's more joy for you in right now. Just that. And that's kind of how I understood Paradigm B. Like, to me, I always say my superpower is, and that's why I smile all the time, because no matter how bad something appears to, I separate myself, my little human, my higher inner being, can see a higher story. If I just go deep here, I'm like, well, okay, this really seems to suck, but something amazing must be gonna happen, or it wouldn't be happening.
Having a different relationship with resonance. And because of the time, we don't want to get too far into this, but I'll just say we use Lensafarianism in our sticky stories, to where if we have people in our lives that we have these sticky stories that continually go, we relensify it. We go back in and we look at it with the sense that they were trying to express. So and looking at it from their perception,
And going to
like
the
we
good.
we don't, and it has to do with our connection. So it's like we know what power feels like. So we had somebody in our life that their behavior is just odd, and but it was like from their point of view, what was it, that the sensation that they were going for, and they felt powerful to make us into something we didn't get enough to really understand. But as soon as we felt that person's power, we could feel that resonance within us. It just drops the story that we had going on in our head and releases that, so we got in resonance with it.
Mhm.
So you're not trying to change their story, but
Right.
you're saying, here's, here's a tool I use, and I'm just gonna put it right over here. If you want to look at it, that's fine too, but
Right, because that's the horrible thing about, like, with the exes and everything, all the past people, is we have our perception of it, and we wished that they made a different choice, and we have it all worked out on how great it would have been if they had taken our perspective. And so the idea is to detach from that, and it's just the concept that they're having their own reality, and that's their story, and to allow them to have that story, and to be there. They get to have their own story. I don't have to drag it along in mine.
Yeah, it's an honoring of everyone, so much so that why would we want to take away another's belief? It's on us to change our own belief system, and we should not be trying to. No, you gotta believe it this way because this is the facts. This is how it is. This is what consensus and majoritarian said. And so now we all need to believe this. And it's like, no, we all need to honor the belief that each of us is capable of creating our own belief system.
Bill.
I had an experience recently where I was sitting. I have many reasons, I'm sure, for my eyesight, right, to be different than what it's been before. And I was sitting, and I have sat in an eye doctor's chair so many times, and I'm just thinking about all these lenses. And when you're sitting there, I used to think that I had to strain and to see the farthest down line. And I used to sit there and I would work so hard to like see the farthest down line. And I'm sitting there this time knowing that it's different. Like I don't have to hurt myself or, strain so much. And so even while I'm sitting in the chair, she's saying, this lens or this lens? This lens? And I'm saying, I'm giving myself permission looking at this very moment going, oh, I'm just going to go up a line or two, whatever's most comfortable, where then I can relax into seeing what I can see and not trying to force myself to see something else, and maybe not even just like relaxing too much. I would go between two lines and I'm like, well, I can see this line better and I can see that line better, or I can see this line better and this line worse. Just that. There's so many reasons why my eyesight could be changing, but I'm giving myself permission to not like struggle and strain, and also not going, I can see line one, I can see line one the whole time, where I want to know what I can see and what's comfortable and what feels good to see with this lens. This one's more blurry, this one's more clear, this one I can see farther, but just there's so many perspectives, but really saying, oh, I'm gonna sit back and relax and see what I can see. It was just, I wrote down so many notes, but just, and then thinking about like you said, you can enjoy this. I can see clear now versus I can see
just enjoying that instead of demanding I see all of it right now or none of it if I don't wear my glasses. So it was just interesting that it's the lens. That's perfect.
That brought
Perfect.
tears to my
Yeah,
eyes.
that's
You
so-
literally brought tears to my eyes on how powerful and connective that story is
Yes.
to this exact process. Like that is such a beautiful. Because well, I know for myself, I've been to the optometrist a lot, but that's exactly what it is, and I love your perspective of it's not the laissez-faire where you're just like whatever, but it's not the squinting, it's this other presence.
You
This
decide
other,
what you decide. I decided before where I was going to be like, I want to see the farthest
Right.
I could see.
beautiful.
And now I'm like, no, I want to sit down and relax, and my eyes to relax, and my mind to relax. Because I did. I felt confusion in when I was looking at certain lines, and I felt, like frustration in certain lines, but I could see farther if I really concentrated. And instead, I was just like, what do I want to feel when I'm looking out of my glasses? And I want to feel this thing.
Mm-hmm. Man, that is like you expect to see a video on that.
Yeah. We'll be using that example.
That was
That's a good
we're
one.
kind of I could keep going all day long. But I just want to invite anybody, if you guys are going to be taking off, there should be a couple of boxes of stickers if you haven't got a sticker already, or if you've had to put up with listening to us, you could take another sticker if you like. We got all kinds of little beatitudes, we call them, and just search through them and feel which one feels good to you, and it's a gift from us. So
The only thing that I didn't get to talk about was the time traveling part of.
could be these things could be a whole
I
talk on
know.
themselves.
Well,
Would you be willing to do another talk?
Sure, absolutely.
yeah.
And if you guys want to co-create a talk with us too, because we know, we feel like we're bringing all these sensations together. Having tears comes to my eyes is because it's the recognition of this new process of collaboration. And to watch that new world be birthed where we're going to collaborate, we're going to be talking about this new dream that we're all dreaming into reality, and it's coming together. So like Lensafarianism is like I'm not attached to being an owner of it. It's a co-creation process.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, we'll put another little discussion up for next week then, because today's a busy day of a lot of people going in. We have the next one is forgiveness for forgiveness sake or something. Then there is a shadow work, and then qigong, and then improv, and then it's a busy day for all of us here at camp. So
I said I was going to do a whole art table today, but I woke up not feeling like doing art, but feeling like playing music. So I'm just going to go with that.
okay. I thought art thing that you and Lexi were doing was tomorrow,
Oh, yeah. 'cause I
Saturday.
never-
Oh, okay.
You're right.